Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel. I'm Mariah, your Dairy State vegan, and today is our fourth video in our Thanksgiving Day meal series. So today we're going to be making two desserts. We're going to do one pie and then one crumble. So we're going to do a pumpkin pie because of course you need to make a classic pumpkin pie for your Thanksgiving Day meal. But then I'm also going to show you how to make a really easy and delicious apple crumble. Both of these desserts are actually really super simple. So I hope that you try them and you love them. And I'm going to teach you how to make a very simple vegan pie crust. Now you can also use store-bought pie crust, just make sure it's vegan, but I'm going to show you how to make one super simple. So I'm going to get all my ingredients together and then we'll be right back to start on our pie crust. Alright, so get your pens and paper ready, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on our pie crust. So the first step is to take 2 cups of flour and a half a cup plus 2 tablespoons of vegan butter, put it in a bowl in the freezer with either your pastry blender or some butter knives to chill for an hour. Then to that, we're going to add a tablespoon of sugar and a pinch of salt. And we're going to cut this together until it's a nice crumbly texture. The key to a really good pie crust is that everything is very cold. It will be the trick that makes your pie crust flaky and delicious. Now usually I'm all about getting your hands messy, but this is one instance where you want to use your hands as little as possible. Now if you have a pastry cutter, this is actually going to go a little faster, but I've just always used 2 butter knives like my great grandma taught me, so just the way I do it. I'm old school that way, I guess. Alright, so once we have a nice crumbly texture, we're going to go get some water out of our freezer that I've had chilling to get ice cold, and we're going to add about 3 tablespoons, so just pour in a little bit at a time. I'm going to go ahead and start cutting it in. Alright, so now we're getting like little pebble-like structures. We're going to add about 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil and about 3 more tablespoons of water. So once we've blended in the oil well, this is the part where we're going to have to use our hands as little as possible. So try and mix it into a dough ball as quickly as you can. You'll see that there's like more crumbly flour and then the more stuck together. Try and incorporate it in first before you add more water because we don't want our dough to be too wet. Alright, so now we have our nice ball. You'll notice little clumps of butter throughout the crust. That's good. What we're going to do with this is we're going to wrap it in saran, the whole bowl. We're going to pop it in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes, And while this is finishing chilling, we're gonna make our apple crumble. So onto our apple crumble, I have peeled and cubed 7 Granny Smith apples. And to this bowl, we're gonna add some lemon zest. Make sure when you're zesting your lemon, you just get the yellow. You don't want to get that bitter pith. All right, when it's all said and done, you're going to zest about half of this lemon. And then we're also going to add the juice of half of this lemon. Squeeze it through your fingers or use a lemon squeezer to make sure you don't get seeds in there. Like that. And then to the apples, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of sugar, a tablespoon of brown sugar, halved, tablespoon and a half of cinnamon, ¼ teaspoon of nutmeg, a teaspoon of vanilla, and then we're also going to add about a ¼ cup of each raisins and chopped walnuts. And while we're mixing this together, we're going to have our oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now you can skip the raisins and the walnuts, but since this is Thanksgiving, I just thought it added a little something extra. And then we're going to mix this well together. All right, and then once all of our apples have an even coating of cinnamon and the sugars, we're also going to add about 1/2 of a tablespoon of cornstarch. This is going to keep your apples from turning into being too soupy as they cook down in the oven. And then once this is well mixed, we can move on to making our crumble topping. Alright, so our crumble topping is super simple. We're going to take approximately 1 cup of flour, ¼ cup of just rolled oats, They don't have to be quick cook or anything like that. Two tablespoons of white sugar. 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. You can do all white sugar if you like. I just like the caramely molasses texture that brown sugar gives. And then we're going to mix these dry components together with our fingers. We're going to add just a pinch of salt. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add some vegan butter, and we're just going to crumble it together with our fingers until we get a good texture. So we're going to add about a tablespoon at a time. Unlike your pie crust, you can totally use your fingers here to incorporate everything. Probably going to end up using about 3 tablespoons. So this crumble topping is going to pick up moistures from the apples cooking down. So you want it to be exactly like it says, crumbly. So if you take it in your hand, when it looks like this, it almost looks like sand, damp sand, and you squeeze, see how it comes together? That's when you know it's perfect. So now we're ready to assemble our crumble, just that easy. We're going to take our casserole dish, and to it, we're going to add our apple walnut mixture. This is going to cook down significantly, so don't worry if your pan looks a little overfilled. Apples shrink when they cook. Get all those yummy juices that already rendered out of the apples into this pan. And then we're just going to top this with our crumble mixture. Just want to evenly distribute it over all of the apples. This is something you can make and keep in your oven on warm while your guests are enjoying dinner, and it will be a showstopper dessert, and nobody has to know how easy it was. All right, so we're going to take this, put it in the 350 oven for about 30 minutes. And after that, we're going to get going on our pumpkin pie. All right, so now we're on to perhaps the easiest dessert of all of Thanksgiving. Nobody tells you this, but it's so the easiest. So we're going to take 1 can of pumpkin pie, or not pumpkin pie filling, pumpkin puree. They come in 14 or 15 ounces, just one of those. And put it into a blender. You can use it in a bowl too with a whisk, but it's so fast and so easy if you put everything in the blender. Then we're going to take 3/4 of a cup of full fat coconut milk. Make sure you shake it up really well so that you get that coconut cream incorporated throughout the milk. Oh gosh, I might make a mess. All right, well I bought the pop top to make it easier, and that was not easier, that was terrifying. 3/4 of a cup. Save the rest of it for your coffee in the morning. It's so good. Then we're also going to add 1/4 cup of maple syrup. I have this organic bourbon barrel aged from Trader Joe's. One-quarter cup into the blender. We've got half a cup of brown sugar, hacked. Quarter cup of cornstarch. Don't forget this or your pie will be pumpkin soup. Sweet pumpkin soup. We're going to add 1 tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. Now you can take this down to 1.5 teaspoons or 2 teaspoons. I like my pie spicy, so I add a good amount. You can also make your own pumpkin pie spice, but that would take this from being the laziest dessert on Thanksgiving to like the second laziest. So 1 tablespoon into the blender she goes. We're going to add about half a teaspoon of cinnamon. I use the ground Saigon cinnamon because it's a little bit sweeter. A pinch of salt, about a half teaspoon, and a dash of vanilla, about 1 teaspoon. And then we're going to let the blender work its magic. Just going to put the lid on and blend it up. All right, so this is beautifully blended. I'll show you inside of this blender here. And now I'm gonna go roll out our pie crust, and then I'll come back and show you the rest of the video. All right, so we have our pie crust rolled and in our pan, about 1/4 inch or a little less thick, okay? And we're just gonna leave it in the pan. You do not poke holes in your pie crust if you're baking the filling in the pie crust. Pro tip. So otherwise, everything will just leak through onto the pan. So now we're going to take our pumpkin mixture. I'm just going to kind of mix it a little bit more to make sure while it was sitting while I rolled out the pie crust, it didn't separate. And then we're going to pour it into pie plate, and then we're going to bake this in a 350-degree oven for about 60 minutes. Now I realized as I started filling this pie that I was using my deep dish pie pan and forgot, so I ended up doubling the batch to fill the pie crust. If you're using a regular 9-inch pie pan, not necessarily the original recipe will work, but if you're using a deep dish, double it up. And then also remember, about halfway through the cooking time, take your pie out, cover the edges in tin foil so they won't burn, and then let it cook for the last 30 minutes. All right, so now that our apple crumble has been in the oven for about 30 minutes, I'm gonna take it out and add about 2 tablespoons worth of pats of butter over the top. We're gonna sprinkle some brown sugar to get a little bit of a caramelized effect. And then we're going to put it in the oven again for about another 15 to 25 minutes until our apples are cooked, and we'll be all set. All right, I'm going to show you guys a little family thing we do. Whenever we have leftover pie crust, we roll it out and coat it with a healthy dose of vegan butter, sugar, and cinnamon, and roll it up into pie dough cookies. and they're just a really good nighttime snack after baking all day. All right, so our apple crumble is done. Look at this, guys. Just look at it. Our pumpkin pie is still baking. Once the pumpkin pie is done baking, you're gonna notice it's kind of cracked around the edges. It's gonna be a little wobbly still in the middle. And then you're gonna take it out of the oven, let it cool to room temperature, and put it in your refrigerator for 4 hours or overnight. I'm gonna leave it in there overnight, and I'm gonna taste test it in the morning for y'all, so I'll get pie for breakfast. But right now, I put a little bit of the Whole Foods 365 Irish Whiskey Caramel Ice Cream on top of this, and I'm just gonna dig in. It's super hot. You guys, it smells so good. It's such an easy dessert. Look how soft the apples are. They almost turned into applesauce. And the warm and the cold with the ice cream is gonna be We got the sweetened heart of the apples with the Granny Smith apple. The crumble is really buttery and a little caramelized with that brown sugar. Nothing is overly sweet. And then the coolness of the ice cream with it. You certainly don't need the ice cream, but I don't know why you wouldn't use it. So, I'm gonna go finish up my pumpkin pie, and I'll be back here in the morning to taste some pie for breakfast for y'all. Good morning. It's very yellow in the background because it is 5:39 in the morning and pitch black outside. But the pie is set overnight. You guys look at that crust, flaky and thin. I just put a dollop of this So Delicious coconut cream on, and I promised you guys I would taste this on camera because I did the apple crumble. So let's taste it. Pie for breakfast, you guys. This is gonna go really good with my coffee. Pumpkin is a vegetable. So creamy. The maple syrup adds a really, really good sweetness along with the sugar, but that maple syrup is just like the perfect addition to this pie. And even though doing it in a deep dish pie was an accident, and I had to double the recipe, look how thick she is. This girl's good. Go finish my pie, drink some coffee, and edit this video so I can get it up for y'all. I hope you enjoy these recipes. I would love to hear if you added them into your family's Thanksgiving and what you all thought of them. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope if you like this video that you'll comment down below, smash that like button, but also subscribe. After this Thanksgiving series, I will have a Christmas series coming up for the month of December, with all kinds of Christmas meals and appetizers and cookies. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.